everyone, and welcome in. Over the next week or so, I'm going to post a couple of videos creating cards that feature this Fawn Swan Soiree stamps and die set. I had so many ideas for this set, so I decided to do several shorter videos featuring one card each, allowing me to focus on making each card a wow without taking up too much of your time. If you've followed me for a while, you know my favorite thing to do is make things stand, sit, or pop up. I believe if our creations can be displayed, they are much harder to get rid of. Maybe I'm dreaming, but I still have fun, so I choose to believe I'm not. I pre-cut, scored, and assembled all of the elements for this card. Here's what I have to create with today. I have stamped and die cut one of each of the swans on white 110-pound cardstock with a light gray ink, so my swans are a bit more subtle. I then colored their beaks with Copic marker Y17. I next cut out a Lawn Fawn stitched pond frame using the soft blue from the Watercolor Wishes 6x6 petite paper pad, and then took a piece of 12x12 green Watercolor Wishes paper and cut a piece measuring 8 inches by 5.5 inches. I also scored this green piece at 4 inches on the long side. To frame my scene, I used the landscape version of the leafy tree backdrop die. I cut one of these out of the Lawn Fawn Mermaid cardstock and one out of the blue Dandy Day paper from the 6x6 petite paper pad. Lastly, for this piece, I got a scrap of Lawn Fawn dark brown wood grain cardstock. I had just enough to cut the tree out. And then I took some green scraps and cut out several sets of the Lawn Fawn Simply Puffy Clouds. I love to use these for trees and shrubs. They work quite well. To make the scene just a little bit more interesting and meadow-like, I cut the Lawn Fawn cattails border out of some scrap green cardstock. I really like how there's a separate die to cut out the little cattails. I cut them out from craft cardstock and attached them to the border. Isn't this cool? The pond frame die also had some cattails with 1 or 2 stems, and I cut these out as well, and a few lily pads for good measure. The last thing I die cut was this Happy Mother's Day, as this will be my mom's Mother's Day card this year. I used my favorite Tim Holtz Gold Craft cardstock. The die itself comes from Lawn Fawn. Now follow along and I'll show you how I put this all together and made it pop up. I hope you are pleasantly surprised at how easy it is to assemble. Step 1. Creating the frame. I glue the Dandy Day frame to the mermaid cardstock frame using some art glitter glue. Then I glue the tree trunk on top of the Dandy Day paper. When I'm sure everything is lined up and adhered, I fold this frame in half horizontally. I have folded the cattail border in half as well, and then add glue to the bottom of the frame and adhere the border. Step 2. Attach the pond. I attach the pond and then the frame, centering them over the crease on the green watercolor Wonder panel. I press it all down with my bone folder to make sure it isn't going anywhere and is as flat as it can be. This can be a little tricky since it's 2 separate pieces and I need to make sure they are lined up perfectly. Lawn Fawn also has a die that's just the stitched pond. This would make an easier job of it all as it's only one piece and I believe it's about the same size. Oh well, this is what I've got and I think it turned out great. Then I fold the green layer in half along the crease and open it up to make sure it lays flat. And now, as I like to say, we're ready to go vertical. Step 3. Create the V-fold mechanisms. I'll make the pop-ups happen by attaching them to what's called a V-fold. This is a great starter mechanism when working with pop-ups. I'll start by creating a V-fold to attach the frame to. I have a strip of Lawn Fawn cilantro cardstock that measures 5.5 inches by 1 inch. That I scored at 1/2 inch on the short side. I fold and crease it in half along the score line and then fold in half and crease along the long side. Next, I create 2 tabs by snipping up the center score line in the middle and then snipping the edges at an angle. I apply adhesive to the top half of the V-fold mechanism, line up the centers and bottoms for the frame and the mechanism, and attach them together. I set that aside to dry and then move on to creating the V-fold for the swans. I have a rectangle scrap of mermaid cardstock that's 1.5 inches wide. I lay the swans down on top to determine how long I would like it to be and snip it. Then I repeat the process to create the taps. The difference this time is that I have a 1/2 inch side and a 1 inch side to my mechanism. The 1 inch side gives enough space to attach the swans. After the tabs are created, I attach the swans to each side of the center crease so they are facing each other and their heads are forming a heart. There are different ways to go about attaching the swans. On the first side, I attached the swan and then used my scissors to remove any blue cardstock that was showing around top and left of the swan. For the right side, I held the swan up and got an idea of what I could cut away so that once the swan was adhered, there wouldn't be any blue to be seen. I cut it away and then applied glue and attached the right swan. I covered the back of the swans with blank die cuts to give the swans a nice finished look. Step 4. Attach the V-fold. Let's start with the swans. To attach the V-fold, I apply adhesive to the tabs and then line up the center of the V-fold with the center of the card base. The sides are then shifted towards the bottom of the card to create an upside-down V. This will ensure that the swans fold up instead of down. If I wanted them to fold down, I would adhere the V in a right side up V. When I'm happy with their position, I press down to make sure the swans won't be going anywhere. Next, I do the same thing with the frame, except this time I open it up wider so that it's almost a 180-degree angle. This way, when the card is opened, it will frame the swans and scene perfectly. Now, I carefully close the card, making sure everything is folding into place correctly. I can make any adjustments I need as I close, and then I press the two sides together with my bone folder. I finished my scene by adding the lily pads and some cattails to the pond, and then create an arrangement of my green clouds for a treetop. And there we go. We have an adorable meadow scene for my Mother's Day card. I then add little dots of glue along the back of my sentiment and attach it to the front of the cattail border, and my scene is done. Step 5. Add a card base and decorate. Here I have an 8.5 inch by 5.5 inch piece of mermaid cardstock that I have scored in half on the long side. It's just slightly larger than the scene. I apply glue to one side of the inside panel, and lining it up with the center of the mermaid card base, I press down and make sure everything is flat and secure with my bone folder. I then repeat this on the other side as well. I have cut this 4-inch by 5.25 inch piece of blue Dandy Day pattern paper that matches the inside frame, and use some dotted tape runner to attach it to the front of the card for decoration. Step 6. Creating a belly band closure. Isn't this a beautiful die? I thought it would be perfect as the front of my belly band to close this card. I measured the L in loved and cut a strip of the mermaid cardstock that was the same height by at least as long enough to fit around the card. I then apply my liquid glue to the L and lined it up to stick it to the band, so they almost become one. Next, I position the sentiment where I'd like it on the front of the card and start to bend the band around the edges, wrapping the card as I go. I then apply glue to the right side of the sentiment, which is the D. Wrap the band back around the card and press down. I wrap it for a loose fit so I'm able to pull the belly band off and on without without ruining the card or the belly band. All I need to do now is cut the band underneath the sentiment to the left of where it's attached together, and my belly band and card are done. I'm sorry that this was done off camera. I thought that it was on camera, and then when I was looking back, I made a mistake. What can I say? I hope it's okay and you can imagine how I cut it. If you have any questions, be sure to leave a comment below and I'd be happy to answer. Now it's time to take this pop-up for a test drive. Check it out. It turned out exactly as I'd hoped. I'm so glad I have it done now, as my mom is over in Australia for the foreseeable future with the travel restrictions, and I need to get it over to her soon. I hope you enjoyed today's card and look forward to sharing the next one with you as well. It'll be a little bit different pop-up than today and a little bit larger. If you have any questions about this video, please leave a comment below and I'll be sure to answer you. If you haven't already, I'd be happy to have you as a subscriber of my channel. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my future uploads or live streams. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope in these uncertain times you and yours are safe and healthy. And as always, happy crafting!